Welcome to I Rise Conversations with Joan. My name is Joan Nwosu, and I'm the award-winning author of the book I Rise: The 10 Secrets to Getting Up When Life Knocks You Down. Weight loss. There's a reason the health and fitness industry is a $1 billion industry and still growing. From diets to secret potions to gadgets, there is no shortage of magical secrets to weight loss. Today, we're going to be talking about all things food and weight loss. Welcome, David, to the show. David Hernandez is passionate, inspiring, and motivated when it comes to health and wellness. He believes that each of us is designed to live a life of purpose. He truly cares about people and wants them to get results so that they can live the life that they truly want to live. His mission is to help people learn how to live healthy, fun, engaging life without resorting to diets, emotional eating, restrictive meal plans, or depriving themselves of the foods that they really love. But let's get right into it. But before we go into the nitty gritty, because I'm sure all my listeners just want to know, just spill. What was the tragedy that happened to you that led you on this journey?
You know, there are two very critical points in my life that really have changed the trajectory of my life. But really, the first one was losing my childhood best friend at the age of 21 to obesity. Wow. You know, we were growing up, we did everything together, right? We played sports together, we'd hang out. He was like my brother. And in that, he always struggled. He was like, to paint a picture, he was the husky, overweight kid that always tried to fit in, but he just couldn't find his place, right? He wasn't quite thin and athletic, but he wasn't, far on the other side where he was excessively obese. So he was right in the middle, but he always struggled with his weight. And he struggled with confidence issues. He struggled with his image issues. He just struggled with not valuing who he was because he didn't like how he looked on the exterior, right? And growing up, I remember as I loved fitness and I loved sports, I started playing football at a very young age, at the age of 8. So I really quickly gravitated to this athletic and fit lifestyle. And so I remember I would encourage him, hey, let's go to the gym together. Let's go run, right? Let's go walk. Let's go exercise. Let's go do things. And no matter what he tried, he just could not achieve it. And when we graduated, we both he stayed in Texas. I then moved to Florida, and we kind of disconnected for a moment, and we each went on our own separate path and separate life. And I remember at the age of 21 getting a phone call that he had died. He was so desperate to get the weight off because he had gotten so obese that he went to get a gastric bypass surgery, and 2 days later he got an infection and he died. And Joanne, in that moment, it was the biggest sucker punch I had ever experienced in life in that moment, because I started to get guilty. I started to blame myself. I started to feel as if I was the reason, in a sense, because I didn't help him enough. Yeah. And I remember for months just beating myself on that. And I lived with shame. I lived with guilt, with anger and rage. And I would tell myself, if you had only done more, if you had only helped him more, until, about 6 to 8 months of that, I finally had to accept that there was really not much more I could have done. I did as much as I could in that moment because I was also limited in my knowledge, right? But he just wasn't able to find it in himself to fight for his life the right way to get the weight off. But I did make a commitment in that moment because I had already started my own journey. I was in culinary arts studying nutrition, and I was also really big on my own fitness career. I was fascinated with bodybuilding and fascinated with training. And so I started my own journey, and I quickly fell in love with that side of the business. And in that moment, I said, as long as I know of someone that is struggling in the same areas that my best friend is struggling, I want to make sure I can help and support them avoid going through what my best friend went through, right? And that's kind of where this journey of fitness and helping people started. It was commitment that I still to this day hold myself to that commitment, right? Of encouraging and helping people avoid getting to that place.
Mhm. Wow, that is such a touching story. And I can only imagine the impact that it must have had on you, feeling like
Yeah.
maybe you could have done more, you could have done better, but now you've decided to turn that pain into your purpose where you want to reach out and help other people who might be struggling to lose weight for whatever reason it is. And there are
Right.
lots of people who
Mhm.
are struggling day in,
Yeah.
day out. Like as you were going telling the story of your friend, I can resonate because for the longest of time I've been quite overweight. I've lost some weight in the past couple of years, but I
Mhm.
know the struggle. I know how difficult it is. And it always feels like people don't understand, people cannot relate. They just say to you, oh, you eat too much or go on a diet.
Yeah.
You really don't understand the psychological impact, like you said, of your
Totally.
friend not even fitting in. So you're not super thin, so you can't really fit in with the skinny people who are athletic, but then you're not super obese, so you can't fit in with those people either. So you're kind of in limbo where like nobody understands, they don't know what I'm going through, and it can be a very lonely place to be. I can
Absolutely.
tell for sure. Okay, so tell us a bit more about your journey. So you were in culinary school doing the whole nutrition thing. So how did you go about becoming a wellness or fitness expert today?
Well, it really started with identifying. Well, I always go back to my best friend and look at, well, what did I experience with him? What did I learn from that? Because one thing I did start to realize was that a lot of the same things my best friend struggled with, there were many people that also struggled with them almost in the exact way. And one of the things that I identified was that it wasn't that they did not want to change. It wasn't a sense of want, right? I think we all want to achieve change.
Yeah.
But here, the real issue is identifying, well, what is causing me to stay stuck in this situation? What is the root of this situation, right? And the thing that I identified to be the root cause was the relationship he was having with food. Now, if we think about this, we're in relationship with everything
Yeah.
in life,
Either love
right?
or hate.
We're yeah, yeah. And that's right. It could be love, it could be hate, but in that we're still in relationship, right? We're in relationship with friends, coworkers, with our partner, right? With an animal, with our dog, with the pet, right? We're in relationship with everything. And in that same way, we are also in relationship with food. Now, one thing I started to look at as I kept going deeper into this subject matter, because in the industry, you hear about diets, you hear about nutrition, you hear about exercise, right? It's all over the place.
Yep.
And if that was the solution, then we would not have an issue with unhealthy individuals and overweight individuals. If the solution was simply nutrition and exercise, look, we've all tried that, right? We've all
Yes,
tried
we
diets.
have.
We've all tried going to the gym and exercising, right? So
Yeah.
why isn't there results for everyone?
Good question.
You talked about the psychology, and that's exactly where it starts. Identifying and knowing that we all have a specific psychological and relationship with food. And it's how we have been introduced to food and how our relationship with food was established. Because through this relationship, if you think about any type of relationship, right? Based on how that relationship is what you're going to live out.
Yes.
So if you have a friend, right, that is quote unquote maybe the bad guy or the one that's always getting in trouble, right? What's going to happen? You're going to kind of get some of those tendencies too. So therefore, you're going to also live out that type of life. It is no different when we're talking about food because food impacts everything that we do. And to go even deeper, food shapes us.
Hmm.
Literally, it shapes our physique, right? but it also shapes who we are as people. Why? Because according to our relationship with food, and this is deep, and this is sometimes even a harsh statement to make, but according to how our relationship is with food is who we are going to be. It influences our mood. It influences how we think. It influences our energy. It influences our physicality. It influences our self-confidence. It influences our ability to perform, right? And I see that look of, okay, I don't know quite where you're going with this, right?
Keep going.
And why do I say this? Because when we are young, we are introduced to food in a unique way.
Mhm.
And our relationship with food starts from a young age. So if food is what sustains us, if food is what impacts our energy, our functionality, our cognitive ability, if it impacts how we feel inside, how we look, how we perform, therefore, what and how we have the relationship with food is going to literally determine who we become.
Wow.
So it's important to understand and look at, what is my relationship with food like?
Okay.
Because based on that, we're going to start to identify, how did this relationship start and how is this relationship impacting me today to get me to where I'm at? Because a lot of the issues, right, when we're talking about emotional eating or stress eating, right, or boredom eating and being overweight, stem from how we view food and how we deal with food on a day-to-day basis, because every day we are nurturing that relationship.
Hmm.
We are building that relationship by the choices we are making, right? By the choices we are putting into our body, and what we are doing with them is what starts to define not only who we are, but how we think about food. Therefore, the psychology of food is so important for us to understand and to start evaluating, how was food presented to me? What is food to me? How do I view food, right?
Mhm.
Because anything and everything that we use with the wrong intended purpose will become destructive and unhealthy.
Wow.
So let's just look at any other topic, right? Let's look at pharmaceutical medication.
Yeah.
It has an intended purpose,
Yeah.
right? If you use that prescription for the wrong use, or it is abused, what's going to happen?
Yeah. Becomes
There's
destructive.
going to be
Yes.
destructive, right?
Yeah.
Let's look at sex. If sex isn't utilized for its intended purpose, which based on what you believe or not, right, it is for the producing of joining together in love or joining together in intimacy, right, or to procreate, when it is used in the wrong way, it also can become destructive,
Yeah.
right? And that goes for everything, but primarily also when we're talking about food, if we're not utilizing food for its intended purpose, it can become destructive and unhealthy. Food was intended to give us life and to sustain life.
Mhm.
So therefore, why then is food today causing death?
Mm.
Overeating is the number one leading cause to 88% of all non-communicable diseases, which
Wow.
is causing 11 million deaths each year,
Wow. That's a huge number.
right?
That is a huge.
So when we start to look at it through this perspective, we can start to understand, wow,
Hmm.
food was intended to give life, but yet, therefore, it is also today, if it is used incorrectly, if we have a wrong relationship with it, right? It can quickly turn into destruction. And now it is not fulfilling the intended purpose of what it was created for.
Mhm. So,
So through my journey, that's how I kind of started to start going deeper
yeah.
with, well, what is really causing people to stay stuck in,
Mhm.
right? And the thing that I found out was really that until we don't really identify what my relationship with food is, it doesn't matter what diet you try. It doesn't matter what supplement you take, how many hours you spend in the gym, how many fad diets you try, because it's not going to change who you are, because
Mhm.
it's an identity issue, right? It is a psychological issue based on how you have developed this relationship, which is shaping who you are.
Okay. I've never heard that before. Yeah, and I do consider myself as someone who knows a lot about weight loss, but I knew that it had some psychological thing about it, but not in the way that you've described it. And I would never have thought about relationship, because when I think about food, yes, food is for sustenance, but people use food for other reasons as well. And that's where you
All
get
the
into
time.
topics of emotional eating, which we'll talk about in a second. But before we go there, so you're saying people need to identify their relationship with food. First of all, you identify, and then you can try to change it.
That's right.
How how does one go about discovering that relationship? What it is? Is this something they can do on their own? Are there steps that they can take, or do they need to work with a professional like yourself to help them understand their current relationship with food?
Look, the identifying piece is so important because it gives us awareness about ourselves. I
Mhm.
think sadly, a lot of times as humans, we live life not knowing who we truly are and how we function and operate within, right? What makes us tick? Why do we make the choices that we make, right? Why do I always go to these choices, but yet somebody else likes these other things? Why is that, right? So it's about understanding, who am I as a person and how have I been developed and shaped? What are the things that I have a tendency of leaning towards? Because this relationship with food, right, is how you are viewing certain things about the choices that you're making. So why is this important? If growing up, your introduction to food, right, or your relationship to food was canned foods, processed foods, frozen foods, right, fast foods,
Mm.
restaurant foods, anything mom can whip up really quick to make simply so that you can eat. What happens? The more this is fostered day in, day out, day in, day out, we start to now develop that relationship throughout our life, which now starts to shape a lot of things about us. So the first point we want to look at is, am I happy with who I am today?
Gotcha.
If the answer is no, then we need to go and assess, well, food wise, what am I choosing? What are the choices that I make? What is my view when I think of food and I look at these foods? What do I see them as?